Good morning. Morning for me, probably for you it's afternoon or somewhere there. Um, as you heard before, my name is Sergey. I will show the slide about myself. Also, next slide will be about me. But this slide about my session, offensive Azure security, or Azure if you prefer British English. The question is, what does it mean, offensive Azure security? The goal of this session is to show you how the infrastructure in Azure may be compromised depends on the scenarios. And when we talk about hacking or pen testing, it's not just about like a vulnerable software. We don't tell here, I'm not going to tell you that Azure itself is vulnerable, but usually that's about your deployment. So my goal here is to show you some deployments that are not the best and that may be vulnerable and they may not be configured perfectly. And so your goal will be here is to see that, to watch my session, and just make sure you don't have configurations like that. One more thing about this session. I'm a really big fan of live demos, so you will not see a lot of slides. Most of the time, you will see slides only to show you where we are, but the real content will be presented during live demos. Few words about myself. Lidger, I just told you all of this, but maybe you want to see it on the slide. Who am I? Once again, I'm Russian, so that's my burden to talk about all of this hacking. I was speaking conferences. I was speaking Microsoft headquarters. Also, by the way, this specific session was the session that was presented on Security B-Sides, which is well-known security conference. You already heard about my certifications, so let's continue from here and show you what we're going to cover. So in this session, that's my agenda. And you may say, wait a second, what the hell is that? So it's like 3 shapes. You call that agenda. Yeah, as you remember, this session will be about, is offensive session. My goal will be compromise 3 environments. First environment will be Active Directory when you have connectivity from your on-prem ID to the cloud. So we're going to compromise this hybrid Active Directory. Next, I'm going to show you how we can compromise IaaS services, so virtual machines. When we have application built on virtual machines, how we can try to compromise, what we can pen test there. And finally, we will cover how PaaS services may be compromised, how we can try to pen test services that are managed by Microsoft. That is agenda. So without being said, let's get started. As I mentioned before, the session will be based on live demos. And the first scenario is Active Directory connected to the cloud. So you probably know that when we have on-prem ID and we have Azure, we want to connect them with a tool called AD Connect. So let me jump to my demo, and let me show you not perfect configuration of AD Connect. But before I show you the bad configuration, let me first give you some ideas about AD Connect, give you an introduction. So first of all, you know that we have AD Connect, which is the service, which is a tool that will synchronize our identities from on-prem to the cloud. And when I configure this AD Connect, one of the steps is to connect to my directory, So I say which my forest is, and I need to add an account that will have access to my forest. And so this account will read or do something else with my on-premises accounts. Probably you know that. And when you configure AD Connect, if you configure AD Connect at least once, you have this step. And so on this step, you have a choice. So you may allow AD Connect to create account for you, which is, say, here recommended. So you will allow AD Connect to create account for you automatically, which is really recommended. And I also can recommend that. So allow AD Connect to create account for you. Or you can use existing account, which is less recommended because in this case, you must delegate all permissions manually. And also you will know the password, which is not the best idea. So let me show you this account that was created automatically. And if I jump to my Active Directory, I can find this account. MSL underscore and something something. It depends on your environment. So let me open this account. And if I look at the membership, I can see that that's just the main user. So this account is not really privileged account. So it looks like it's pretty secure. But let me jump back the slide and show you one interesting idea. When we add more configurations, that account will have more permissions. And one of the very important, very recommended option called password hash sync. So when you configure your AD Connect, it's very recommended by Microsoft and by me as well, but by almost anyone, to enable what's called password hash sync. In this case, your hashes of your passwords will be synchronized to the cloud as well. And so if you have disaster on premises, if your on premises doesn't work, or if you don't have connectivity on prem, your users will be able to authenticate anyway, just because you have hashes of passwords in the cloud. So this is very recommended. But keep in mind, when you enable this, account will have extra permission. That account will have permission to replicate Active Directory. So it will automatically get permissions called replicate directory changes and replicate directory changes all. So let me show you this. If I go here to properties and go to security of my domain, find MSL account, scroll a bit down, and here I can see this permission. So this account now, if I enable password hash sync, will be able to replicate Active Directory. All right, so 2 questions here that you may have. First of all, what's the problem if this account can replicate Active Directory? Second one, as far as we know, the password of this account is not known by anyone, so probably it's pretty secure. Yes, but let me show you how this password may be found, and then how I can use this privilege. So let's think logically. If this account is used by AD Connect, probably AD Connect must know the password of this account, right? I guess. Let's take a look where this password may be found. Maybe you know, maybe not, but AD Connect stores configuration in special database, and this database may be found here, AD-Sync database. So information will be stored in database. Let me connect to this database real quick. And find out the table I need. The table called management agent. So if I look at the table, and let me remove the columns I don't need right now. And those as well, and run again. So let me scroll to the right and look at this. Look at this. So I have an account here. So that's account name. And here is the password. And it says my password, not my, but this password is encrypted. So I cannot just find the password in the plain text. All right, so not that simple. But someone must be able to decrypt password, right? And this someone is local administrator of AD Connect. And that's where bad configuration started. When you allow regular, like let's say regular, when you allow anyone except domain admins administer your AD Connect, very often I find this case in for different customers when they just delegate permission to manage AD Connect to server admins, to regular administrators, tier 2 administrator, whatever. That's not the best idea, because if I'm a local admin on AD Connect server, what I can do, I can use a tool called AD Connect dump. Of course, I can do it manually, but with tools much more simple. And in this case, I will just run one script. Look at this. This script gives me the password of this MSL account. So if anyone has local admin rights on this AD Connect server, this user, if he knows, may get this password. All right, what I can do with this password? If I have this password, what I can do? Now I answered the first question that you maybe you had about how to get the password. Now let's take a look how we can use the privilege. Now let's jump to client machine, and I'm gonna open client command prompt as the local administrator, and let's see who am I. I'm a JDO user, so I'm not a MSRL. Now let me open command prompt as the different user. And and here I'm gonna type username, and I'm gonna copy this password. And paste here. So it takes some time before this command prompt will be opened. So now I'm trying to open command prompt on behalf of a MSRL user. Before this, let me check the permissions of JDO. If I try to look at the root drive of the main controller, like a C drive, it says access denied. So I don't have permissions to access the main controller. So now I have another command prompt open. Let's see who am I here. I'm MSRL account. Let's try to look at the root of the main controller. No, I don't have access either. All right, so looks like it's pretty secure. So this account is pretty standard. In general, yes, but just want to remind you, I have a permission to replicate Active Directory. And if I run a tool called Mimikatz, by the way, you may say, hey, Mimikatz will be blocked by antivirus. It will. I have a separate session, how to evade protection. If you find me on LinkedIn, you may find the session and the recordings. Now I just run Mimikatz. So if I run Mimikatz, I can do one interesting thing. I can run a command called lsa-dump dc-sync, and I can synchronize information about any user, including the main admin. So because I have a permission to replicate. Let me do it real quick. Now you can see there's the hash of that user. Hash of that user. So that's the hash of the main admin. And now just one thing left. You probably heard about that called pass the hash. So if I run Mimikatz again, and now I'll just run pass the hash, and I need to copy this hash, paste here. I have third command prompt. Let's try again. And look at this. Now I have access to the main controller root. It means I'm a domain admin. I will show you in the end some mitigations, some ideas about mitigation. I hope I did not forget to add the slide, hopefully. Anyway, so as you can see, if someone has access, local admin access to AD Connect server, this user may become the main admin. So be very careful about that permission. I'm going to jump back to my slide. And so now we compromised the first environment with hybrid AD. And now I want to move on, and I want to jump to the next section, to the next scenario, where I have, let's call it legacy application. In fact, it's Jenkins, which is not really legacy. But this application is deployed on virtual machines. And the reason why I've chosen Jenkins is because this machine has slave node and master node. So you know that Jenkins Jenkins may be deployed on multiple machines, and those machines, they may have different operating system. So my goal here is to show you how Linux may be compromised and Windows may be compromised. I don't really care if it's Jenkins or something else. Jenkins just an example here. So let's start to pen test, or compromise if you wish, on-prem, not on-prem, sorry, virtual machines in Azure. I'm going to jump back to demo. And now from here, let's continue this idea. Now I'm a domain admin. If I'm a domain admin, I can connect to literally any workstation. Any workstation. If I connect to any workstation, what I can do, let me show you one interesting thing. So let me open CMD on one workstation and CMD on another workstation. And here I want to type AZ account list and output as a table. Let me copy this. And let's do the same here. So here I have the list of my subscriptions. And here I don't have anything. I don't. Come on. Give me an error. Yeah, finally. So it says, hey, you must first authenticate. But why I opened command prompt from scratch and I did not authenticate and I got the list of subscriptions? Why is that? Probably it means that this token cached somewhere. So somewhere on this workstation, token may be cached. Let's try to find that. If I go to a user profile, this current user profile, and in user profile, you may find a folder called .azure. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell. Probably you know that if you worked with Azure before, but this tool called AZ CLI, a very common tool used by administrators, by developers. So it's really high chance if I connect to admin workstation, I will find this tool there. So they use this tool. Not really sure, but quite often that's the fact. It's very common tool. So common usage. So when I use this tool, I may find the folder called .azure in the user profile. And here in this folder, I can find token. If I take all the files except config and zip them, let's zip them. Then I can take this .azure 7 zip and copy that to different workstation. So here I already have a token. Let me remove this. And so now let me extract that. And let's try again. Fingers crossed. Come on. Yeah. As you can see, if I'm a domain administrator, I can literally get access to any workstation on the network. And if I get access to the workstation of someone who already has access to the cloud with this AZ tool, I can steal the token, copy it to my workstation, and I'm all set. I can get into Azure. So from here, let me start to work with virtual machines. So first, I want to know what virtual machines this company has. And so let me first show the list of virtual machines. Pretty large list. And here, my goal will be Jenkins, which is master slave and master node and slave node. Let me show you them on the portal first. If I go to the Jenkins master and Jenkins slave, look here. So master node is Windows, and slave node is Linux. How I'm going to pen test those virtual machines? Before I start to do it, let me show you one thing that you should keep in mind. For each virtual machine in Azure, we have a command called option called run command. If I click there, for Windows, I can find a way to run PowerShell scripts just right from here. So generally speaking, if I have access to this virtual machine, I can run any script on this virtual machine. So if I want to get into virtual machine, I must know username and password normally. But if I run the right script, I can bypass this authentication. For Windows machine, I can run PowerShell. For Linux, I can run bash script, shell script. So I can run scripts without authentication. And the question that you may have, wait a second, but do you need to have any permissions on the virtual machine level? Yes, I must be just a reader. Let me share that real quick. If I go to roles and I click reader, that's a reader, like pretty innocent role. And if I look at the Microsoft Compute here, and let's find run commands. Where's that? Oh, here you go. Look here. So I can run commands if I'm just a regular reader. If I'm just a reader, quite often this permission inherited from subscription level or from resource group level. So I'm a reader. I can run commands. So let me do that. But before I run command, let me establish the listener on my Linux machine. Oh. All right, I'm all set. Now, let me jump back to here and run two commands. First one will be shell. I want to run shell, what's called reverse shell. Click this one, and let's wait for the shell on Linux. Oh, that's not for Windows. Fingers crossed, and I will have a shell soon. I will, hopefully, someday. All right, let's in parallel run the same for Windows. For Windows, it will be slightly different. So for Windows, it will download my code and run this special executable. But because it's my custom, it will not be detected by antivirus. Let me just run that. All right, let's see the result. Oh, look at this. I have a shell with Linux. Let's see, who am I? I'm root. And generally speaking, I can do whatever I want. I'm a god on this Linux machine. And look at this. I also have a Windows. I have access to Windows. And I'm local system because all of these run commands, they work on behalf of local system. Isn't it cool? So if you're a reader of virtual machine, you may just log in and bypass any authentication. All right, so the last thing I want to try here is to find out the password to Jenkins. Not really necessary, but just want to show you that I can see some logs. And I know that Jenkins stored the default password in logs, and here's the default password. Before this, let me find the note, which is published. And let me copy this and paste here. Yep, I'm inside of the Jenkins. So now I finished the pen test of virtual machines. As you can see, if someone has permissions to read, I can do whatever I want. Not whatever I want, to be fair, but I can execute any command, and this command may give me unauthorized access. All right, so let's continue. And we have the last scenario. And in the last scenario, I'm going to cover PaaS services. And this scenario should be slightly more complicated because this time I will not just have simple virtual machines. I will have app service, and this app service will be backed by SQL database. And the credentials to connect from app service to SQL database will not be stored on the web application. It will be stored in the key vault. And also they will be rotated by function. So it should be pretty secure. And also from outside, this application will be protected by WAF, or application firewall. So pretty nice configuration. Let me show you this configuration first, and then we're going to find a way to get into. All right, this time I will jump. If I no, this will not work. Let me use this. This time I will show you most of the things on the portal. And first, let me show you my app service. So my app service, if I click on that, just a one pager, very simple application. Let me. It says register here. Let me register. Let's say I am. Let's call myself Let's call it Sergey, and let's say Sergey at whatever. Let's submit. Now it says you are registered. So it looks like it's working with database because it registered me inside of the database. So it's just a very simple application. But to connect to database, I must store credentials somewhere, and those credentials will be stored in the Key Vault. So first, application is working on app service. I have a SQL database as a backend called PHPDB. And also credentials to connect to database will be stored in what's called Key Vault. Key Vault. Key Vault, and here we have secrets. And if I go there, I can see I don't have, my account doesn't have permissions on this Key Vault. Wow. So I cannot read those secrets. Let me show you real quick that just give myself permissions for a moment, just to show you that I have, I have secrets there. Select, add, save that. Go back to secrets. And you can see here, there's a username that will be used to connect, and the password that will be used to connect. And the connection strings are hard-coded, who cares? So username here, I cannot find the content because I don't have permissions to get, but just want to show you that here I have permission. I have two secrets, username and password. So let me remove permission from myself. And let's take a look on secrets again. Refresh. Yeah, so now I don't have permissions to list them again. All right, so as you can see here, it should be pretty secure. So what I'm going to use to compromise this application, you won't believe me, but I'm going to use the key rotation procedure. So when you have Key Vault, is super recommended by Microsoft, and the screenshot is from Microsoft website, is very recommended to rotate those keys and secrets. Keys, secrets depends. So it's very recommended to rotate them. Do not have them static, rotate. And for these purposes, you may find you may find the function on the Microsoft website. And this function will automatically rotate those credentials. So it will change the secret in the Key Vault and the password in the SQL database. So the function, which is serverless application, will rotate my credentials. All right, so what may be the problem here? The quite common problem I found is the permissions that are different between function and Key Vault. Because classically, Key Vault configured by access policies. That's what I showed you there. So you must configure access policy. Function permissions to functions configured by airbag. And so those permissions are not the same, not the same permissions. Quite often, not quite often. I don't want to say I find it often, but I found that. So what I found is Key Vault may be configured pretty nice. That's what I have. At the same time, function has allows anyone, not anyone of course, but someone to have access to it. And so I can try to compromise function first, and because function has permissions to access Key Vault, I can write my own function there, and so the function will take any data I need from the Key Vault. So let's try to do it. I'm gonna jump back to. Sorry, phone call. So I'm gonna jump back to Portal. Now let's take a look on my function. If I look at the function application, and this function application, by the way, this function application just from the Microsoft website, from the GitHub, so you may find it on the Microsoft Docs. And here we have two functions in this function application. First one will be triggered by event grid. Second one will be triggered by HTTP. So the second one will be more interesting. I can send my own request and so trigger the function. All right, so let me open this function. Look at the code. And that's the that is the original code you may find on the GitHub. So that's the original code. So I deploy the function. Now let's discuss what problems this function may have. So problem number one: someone has read or even write access to this function, and this function has FTP enabled. So as far probably you know that those functions is based on app service, and app service has FTP enabled by default. So if I go to configuration, come on, and go to general, here I can find FTP state, which is allowed by default. I did not configure that on purpose. It's just allowed by default. So FTP is allowed. And now if I go to and download publish profile, I can find here credentials to connect to this FTP service. But because I don't have interface normally, if I'm a pen tester, close all of this, I can do it from command prompt. So let me do it from here. And now I'm going to first find FTP URL of this function. So let's wait a second. And so now I can have FTP URL. Let me copy this and paste to FileZilla. Now I need username and password. Let's try to do the same. So let's get credentials from publishing profile. And now I have a username here. And the password as well. Now I can connect. And I can see here the underlying function. And if I go to my HTTP, so what I already did, I took the run.ps1 function, which was created by default, and I renamed that to run1.ps1. So that was an original function. And instead of original function, I placed my own function. So my own function will extract credentials. Let me show you this real quick. So my function will just take those username and password. Of course, it might be more complicated function to first get credentials, get list of credentials, because I may not know the names. For the sake of time, I will just take the username and password from that key vault. And so then it must output right host like username is and password is as the one line. So let's try that. I'm gonna open PowerShell and let's run the query. And so now it should trigger the function. It takes around a minute before function will return any results. So hopefully I will get it. So in parallel, what I want to do, because for the sake of time, I will get username and password. I want to make sure I have SQL open. SQL Management Studio, yeah, I do. Let me copy this and open here as well, and switch to SQL Authentication. All right, let's see the result. Yeah, so now I have web username is a web app, and password is very simple password. Now with those credentials, I can try to connect to SQL database. Let's try to do it. So let me copy this web app right here, and the password here and here as well. So I was able to connect here, and let's try here. No, I can't connect from here. What's the difference between those two virtual machines? Why I can connect from one VM and can't connect from another VM? What's the problem? So let's jump to portal and start to show you database security. So if I jump to SQL database and click to my database, by default, any of the SQL database will have firewall. And it's firewall maybe on a server level, also maybe on database level, but database level will be configured through transact SQL only. So let's focus on the server firewall. If I click server firewall here, I can find that by default, database will not accept any connections if you do not whitelist an IP address. So I must type IP address here and here. But why it allowed me to connect from one of the virtual machines? And here I want to show you very common and very bad configuration. And this configuration is this one. Allow Azure services and the resources to access this server. So what is that? So in many people mind, this means that your virtual machines, your Azure resources, your applications will be able to access this SQL server only from your subscription, not anyone else. Not anyone else. But no, unfortunately, it is not correct. So in this case, if you enable this option, anyone who deployed virtual machine in Azure will be able to connect to your database. Of course, if he knows username and password, but Firewall will not filter a request from Azure in this case. So absolutely any Azure address will be able to connect. From Australia, from US, from Japan, whatever, any customer, any location, doesn't really matter. Anyone from Azure will be able to connect. So this configuration is pretty bad, and I find this configuration very, very, very often. So let me change that. Let's say, no, I don't want to allow this. And what I want to do, I want to deny public access at all. So I want to allow access only through private endpoint. Let's try to connect again. So here we'll have the same result, of course, but here let's disconnect and try to connect again. No, it says public access is denied. So now you can connect only from the virtual network, but you cannot do it from outside. All right, this configuration is better. But let's take a look if we can somehow get into database, even if public access is denied. So in this case, what we can do, we can try to compromise application itself, and through application connect to database. Because application, that's still virtual machine behind the scenes. We can try to connect from application to SQL database. Let's try that. I'm going to open application again. Oh, application is open here. But at the same time, probably you know that application also has FTP access. So the procedure will be the same as we had with functions. So we have FTP access allowed by default. I will connect through FTP. So let's do it real quick. So let's connect. Let's find FTP URL and FTP credentials as well. Copy this. No, not here. I think I don't need it anymore. Let's create a new one. New tab here. Copy this. This. And now I can connect. Oh, that's from my previous demo. Let me remove this. So now I have only one pager. I have access to infrastructure of my application, and I can see one pager, which is index.php. So I find this is PHP. If this is PHP, you probably know. I know you heard this phrase many times. You probably know. So you probably know that PHP is executed on the server side. If I upload my own PHP and navigate to it, it will be executed on the server side, not on the client side like JavaScript. So I'm going to upload my shell, and I want to navigate. See the result. Yeah, looks like I do have access to the actual virtual machine. Host name is Yeah, I know it's weird. Host name is POS service. To be fair, this web shell is not super interactive. Much better will be is let me break the shell here. Establish the new shell, netcat shell. So let me do it real quick. And now I have better shell. So let's see, ID. I'm data. So I'm an Apache user, so web user, which is not really a privileged user, but I have access to this workstation. So my goal now is to connect to SQL database. And now I have a problem. The problem is, if I want to connect to SQL database, I need to have a tool to connect to database. But to install tool like MS SQL CLI, if that's the right name, I must be a root or I must have some sort of pseudo privileges. I don't have them. So what I can do here, I can find a tool which may work without installation. And just an idea to you, the tool I know called uSQL. You may find it on the GitHub. But if you want to try that on the app service, make sure you find the older version, because the newer version will not work on the app service. So I upload uSQL 7, and now let's try to connect to SQL database. So I'm gonna say uSQL and connect to SQL database with my username and password. Looks like I was able to connect. Let's try to get database tables. And now I can see two tables, firewall rules, which is the system database table, and registration TBL. That's my registration table. That's my user table. So, and let's try to what is that? Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Let's take table content. And now I can see this user which was registered. So I reached my goal to get into the database from the web application. And we compromised those application and SQL database as a backend. But here on this slide, I have one more service I want to discuss with you, and this is application gateway. The quite common case for many companies is that your application will be attacked not from inside, like I showed you here. They will be attacked from outside, from somewhere, from the internet. And so they will try SQL injections, they will try cross-site scripting, whatever it may be, LFI, web application attacks. And so very nice idea to have what's called WAF, or web application firewall, in front of your app service. And so the WAF may be found. WAF may be found. It may be deployed here. If you deploy a service called application gateway, and this application gateway may have WAF feature. So first one, let me just let me show you how it looks like. So if I deploy application gateway, I enable WAF here, and I run that in prevention mode. And I can find also rules here, and the rules, they are deployed, they created by OWASP, so Open Web Application Security Project, and they know better than anyone how to protect web applications. Let me try to do the same. So open my web server. This time I will try to, let me open my app service again, normal, regular. And now, instead of just a regular registration, I'm going to try to run what's called SQL injection. Let me just run SQL injection and look at this. Now I have, instead of regular registration, I got an error. It's error-based injection, and it says, hey, so with this error, I can find the path to the actual page. I can see the SQL driver, so I can get a bit more information. We may have different type of SQL injections. I can get more. I can get information from database, or I can get information about SQL Server. So that was a SQL injection. Let's try to do the same, but for the application instance protected by WAF. I'm going to run injection. And look at this. It says, no way, doesn't work. So, doesn't work. Let's try something else. Let's try cross-site scripting. Let's say script. Whatever, alert. Script. Nope, doesn't work. I can try many things. I will show you slightly later how it looks like if I try many things. It will not work. I can try LFI, RFI. Let's try to find APC password. No, it doesn't work. So I can try many attacks. Doesn't work. And here you may say, hey, wait a second. So Microsoft has their own application firewall. And why don't they sell it separately? Why we have it only with application gateway? By the way, it's not only application gateway. There's also how's it called? Front door as well. But anyway, so why do we have it only as managed service? Why we cannot just have it on premises as a separate software or deploy to virtual machine? The reason is, one of the reasons, it's not their firewall. So they did not create that. They use open source firewall called mod security. Let me show you this real quick. If I go to application gateways, let me go here and show you very famous application by Troy Hunt. And let me just go here. Oh no, not. Let's go here and make a SQL injection. And if I click F12, it shows me, hey, here's the mod security action. So they use mod security. But they configure mod security pretty well with OWASP rule. If I try to check, if I try to run different attacks on the web application, I used a tool called WAF Ninja for this. It's fuzzer that may try to bypass application firewalls. So on the left, you may find the actual attack. And on the right, you can see if it was working or not. Let me scroll down. And you can see that everything is red here. Everything is red. So didn't work. Of course, if you wish, you may deploy not different WAF like Barracuda or F5, whatever it may be, in Azure. So that will also work. But this one is managed service. So now we finished. Oh, looks like I forgot the slide about mitigations. Sorry, give me one moment. I will stop my screen sharing for the second. I will find the slide. Looks like I forgot to paste that here. Let me turn the slide back. My PowerPoint doesn't work. Interesting. All right, sorry. I will show you the different. Nice. Oh, finally, looks like it's stopped. No, it's not start to work. Let me just share the screen again and just show you one slide here on the. All right, now, so in the last 50 minutes, we discussed together how things may be compromised. Now let's take a look So once again, this session called offensive Azure security. So it's not really my goal here is to walk you through protection. Hopefully you understand that. So the goal was to show you the bad configurations and give you just some ideas. So based on the offensive part, you may figure out, oh, what should I fix? So I will not go to I will not walk you through all of the configurations to protect, to mitigate, but I will just give you some ideas. First of all, when I compromised AD Forest using AD Connect, what you may use to mitigate that. So first of all, keep in mind, AD Connect is very, very, very privileged tool or server. Do not allow middle-level administrators have access to AD Connect server, at least have admin access to AD Connect server, because they can get the credentials of the MSL user, and if they really want, they may become the main admins. Yeah, they may not know that, but if they want, if they watch my session, they find a way. So keep in mind, AD Connect is highly privileged. It's what I call tier 0. So it must be on the same level of security level as the main controllers. Next one, also principle of least privileges. So that's the thing that I will tell you many times here on this slide. The smallest privileges your users have, the more problems you may have with that. With security, of course, you may have some overheads with managing those privileges, but it will be more secure. And finally, here in this first in the first problem, keep an eye on what's called Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync. That's the new tool that will be deployed in the cloud. So that's you may think about this like a AD Connect, but in the cloud. Not installed on premises. It will be installed in the cloud, deployed in the cloud like a managed service. And on-prem, you will have only agent. In this case, it will not use the full user. And so it will use group managed account. And this will be much more secure because group managed account may not be able to log in. So at this moment, this tool has smaller amount of features than AD Connect. So maybe it's not really ready to substitute AD Connect. But keep an eye on that, and eventually it should be ready to substitute AD Connect. All right, hopefully we'll see. Next one, when I stole credentials from workstation. So here, the primary thing you should do, if you can, of course, to use what's called PAW or Privileged Access Workstation. So that's a separate workstation with separate policies, which is used only to administer services. So you don't Google there, you don't use that as a regular workstation, just administer. So that's a pretty nice idea to have it. And also principle of least privilege as usual. Run commands against virtual machines when I run command. As usual, principle of least privileges. Try to keep even reader permissions may be dangerous. Shell upload or function modification. Disable FTP access for app service and functions. Azure SQL, when I was able to connect, first of all, disable this very popular allow Azure services and the resources to access the server and use private links as well. I know it's still possible to compromise through web application, but you have more chances here. And of course, web application attacks, use WAF, web application firewall. So let me close this presentation and show. I don't know what's going on with this PowerPoint slide. Looks like I need to kill it because I have the last slide for you. Very last slide. And this last slide is here. Where I want to say thank you